Well, hello, and welcome back to the Curious Coaches Lemonade Stand with your host, Dr. Gena. So grateful that you've decided to drop in today for something bright and refreshing to quench your thirst at the lemonade stand. As always, we are here to bring you just a little bit of insight, maybe some good stories, something to share that might make you say, and something that you might want to pour a cup and share it with someone else. If you haven't already, please remember to subscribe, like it if you like the video, share any comments that you have about it so we can help grow this message and get it across the airways to people who might really benefit from it. So without further ado, I want to hand over to today's awesome guest who is going to introduce himself with a really kind of unique take on, I'm going to say, growth and development and how he works on that. So let me hand it over to him. Over to you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Gena. Yes, Chris Wilson, funny accent. I'm here in the UK after spending 11 years in Australia. So have returned to the home shores to sort of apply my craft over here. Look, on title, on paper, I would be an exercise scientist, but my marketing brand would be a stress scientist. So yeah, I come along the lines of using coaching and using my physiology experience to be able to look at biomarkers in the body to be able to determine, can we push harder or do we need to regress that load and go into a recovery so we can come back stronger and accelerate again? You can imagine this sat into the athlete corporate world. And then as I went into sort of coaching and discovering around leadership development, that's where I really sort of built the craft around speaking to SLTs, executives, and high performers.
That is incredible. There's so much that's pinging off of all of that. So do you work with, you just mentioned you're working with sort of that corporate side. Do you work with athletes at all? Or anyone who's in athletics, coaches of athletics, anything like that?
Yeah, it's a completely different craft, as you're probably aware, and most people are like sports coaching versus executive coaching, completely different craft. So there are transferable skills. I've worked with some elite level, some Olympians, all the way down to development squads, which are my favorite, by the way. So that sort of 12 to 14-year-old developmental phase, young potentials coming through. I really love that age group. There's growth, there's shift, there's mindset, there's everything that's going on. It's very noisy, but very exciting as well.
Wow. Okay. I'm going to come back to that because that's really interesting. But I know that's part of your branding, is as being a stress scientist. And I'd love to know more about that. What does that mean to be a stress scientist?
Yeah, that's an interesting title because it was made up, completely made up. Someone said that question you get. Yeah, that's right. That question you get where people say, "Hey, what do you do?" And I was like, I measure this and do that. And they're like, "Oh, you're a stress scientist." I was like, "No, that's not a real thing. That's a stupid name." And then I built a whole brand. And here I am today. So yeah, my work really, let's go sport in context first. So I would be part of an interdisciplinary team. I'd have the physio, the nutritionist, the performance coach. I'd have, the psych sitting in this team with an athlete at the center of the conversation. I would take physiological markers. Let's take stress markers, immune markers, and then map out where the athlete sits. Is the physiology telling us a story where we might be able to push the body harder or maybe regress that load? We all know if I ask an athlete, like, how you feeling? They're like, good. Like, are you ready to go on? Yeah, put me on no matter what. And we started to see that, like, to reduce that risk of injury and that risk of putting harm towards the athlete, that we would use other data points. And so I was one part of a large team. I was really putting data over the top of what the psych, what the physio, what the nutritionist, and what the performance coach was already working with.
That is incredibly fascinating to me. like as a former athlete and someone who coaches my son's baseball team, my sons are athletes. This is absolutely fascinating. How did you come to be in that role, to be a part of those teams? Like what kind of background training did you do and how did you break into that?
Yeah, I went to university much later in life, and I was in fact people thought I worked at the university. That's the age difference with people who the other students were all 18, 19 years old, and then there's this old guy who's in the classroom, and but I studied exercise science, and then I'll get into it quickly, but they give you a shopping list of things you're allowed to study for your research. And I was like,
Okay.
nah, they're really boring. Is there any? And then they said, well, if you want to do something different, you've got to go away and find yourself someone who's willing to support your work and be a mentor for you. So I found this great professor. And then I went and studied multi-stressor environments. So I'd go into mountains, I'd go into different places where there's multiple stresses on the body: altitude,
Hmm.
physical exertion, sleep deprivation, temperature. And then I'd measure immune markers. And that then led me into this whole physiology and biomarker world. I was offered a PhD, but fortunately or unfortunately, I was offered to go to Australia at the same time. So,
I'd take Australia.
well, that's what won, right? It did win. We were 11 there at 11 years, and my daughter's 12. So that kind of gives you an indicator. We took her when she was
Wow.
fresh. Yeah, really young.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a good adventure. Great. And so when I landed in Australia, there's the sort of the link, the bridge. I landed in Australia and there was nothing. There was no work in that region, that area, especially in the very specific area I was looking at.
Yeah. Yeah. I can
So
imagine.
what happened in this beautiful, great scheme of things in the universe, the corporate consultants would come to me and go, hey, we've heard you can quantify stress. I was like,
Oh,
yeah, like pretty easy, right? And they were like, can we use it? I was like, yeah, cool. This is what I would do. This is how I'd use it. And in the end, they go, we don't really understand it. Why don't we just fly you in? And then you can speak to our clients. And next thing you know, I'm in like Sydney, I'm in the boardrooms, I'm overlooking like harbors and in these beautiful buildings. And I'm just doing my thing. I'm going, yeah, cool. This is really great. And that is how I become a consultant and a coach. Just saying.
wow.
Wasn't a scheme, wasn't
That's
a
an
plan.
incredible
Mm,
story.
mm. Yeah. I
That's a
I did.
testament to doing what you love and what you believe in. All like right from the get, from the way you studied it to the way you entered those boardrooms. It was, I'm hearing
Yeah.
very much on your own terms. I love that.
Yeah, and again, it's really hard to sort of sit here and go, yeah, well, it was my thing, and I saw an opportunity in the market. It wasn't even
Yeah.
that. It was just really cool, and then people wanted to hear more. And now I do keynotes and fly around and be invited to these business areas, and I just challenge their thinking around stress, and I put a layer of science behind why we might be seeing what we're seeing, and that fascinates people. Which is, if they're listening, I'm happy to talk.
Awesome. Now curiosity is par for the course on this show. So what's making me curious is what is it that is being experienced by these leaders that they pick up the phone and give you a call? What is it that they're seeing that they're hoping you have, some answers to or can speak to for them?
Yeah, I love that question because I often have this analogy of the Matrix and the red pill and the blue pill. And by the time,
Oh my God. It was so there in my head. That's where the question was coming from. Keep going.
yeah, no, it's this. By the time they get there, unfortunately, it's always the piece. I'd love to get athletes before they've picked up bad habits, before they've got injuries or underlying tone or issues. It's the same in corporate. I often say, get me in early working with teams, but they don't. They wait until they're quite far down the rabbit hole before someone picks up the phone
Yes.
and goes, hey, Chris, I need your help. So we've got a lot of unraveling to do. And what they're experiencing is typically, in their words, um, they're waking up in this state of anxiousness, and then
Mm.
they're constantly trying to control everything because that's a defensive mechanism in our brain. We're trying to we're trying to take the
Yes.
reins, stop people from bleeding and pulling, and we're trying to control this whole, our own sphere in front of our own face. What's married up with that is they've got such cognitive fog because they've been running at such speed for such a long time. From a physiological perspective, they're running out of resources. And we're trying to accelerate and we're trying to keep up and we're trying to push, push, push. And eventually, if we don't find any corrective or alternative methods of working, then eventually your brain and your body will start to go, no, thanks. Going to force you into a little bit of a forced recovery. Let's call it that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
Mm-hmm.
mm.
If you don't stop, I'm going to make you stop. I feel like that's what my
Yeah,
body says.
yeah. And there's a caveat to that because your brain and your body are magnificent. They are beautiful. So even stress is magnificent. I love it. And your brain and your body will push, push, convince, ignore, deny, pretend, find extra resource from somewhere, use stimulants to keep going at this pace because our motivation and our things that make us successful and our drivers will keep pushing towards that goal.
Hmm.
But you can't outrun your physiology. So it's a beautiful piece, but in the end, we do find out that if you keep pushing and ignore the early warning signs, then people can get into a bit of trouble, mentally, physically, emotionally, all those parts. Mm.
Mm. So, what do you find are the greatest sort of takeaways that people express after you've come in and sort of done your bit to support them as they've asked you to do?
Mm. Yeah, I was having this conversation last week. It's just that there is for me, there's a moment, and it's never the mic drop moment for them, but there is a moment in which their energy has changed. And
Oh.
what I mean by that is it's sometimes they don't want to let go. So we're pushing and we're sort of doing this balancing act between how far I can push and how far I have to give. And we're sort of trying to meet that moment. And then there is this release where they figure it out. They see that they don't have to have something, or they do have control over this, or they actually go, do you know what? I caught myself today. I'm thinking about someone, this is why it's in my brain. I was speaking to a client last week and he went, there was this moment where I would always just react. I would go bang. I'd try and meet them
Mhm.
with force and anger. And he said, and I heard the voice and I recognized it so early. I just changed my whole personality. And it was a brilliant meeting, very successful. No, and then, there's little moments where you're going, really, that's so cool. Like, so cool.
That is.
Yeah.
That is. What you just shared, it almost sounded, what's the word I'm looking for? Okay, let me explain, but I'm going to say it almost sounded contradictory, and yet I completely understood it to the point where I felt it in my body. I heard release to actually almost assuage or feel that sense of control, which sounds
Mm,
counterintuitive. But that's
mm,
what I heard. Like you released to actually get the control that you're fighting, and that the active tension, the assertive or even aggressive approach is not bringing you to get that control, but
mm.
almost doing the very opposite and surrendering through release is what ironically will give that control to you.
I love
That's
it.
what it seems like. And I
Yeah.
felt that in my body when you said it.
Yeah. If I went to a simple Covey circle, so like what can we control? That's the big question. And so
Yeah.
the need to control could be, I need you to do this, or I need the markets to do that, or I need the environment to do
Mm.
this for me, as opposed to controlling self
Yeah.
and controlling the emotional response, controlling the putting yourself in those situations. And that's very empowering.
Mm.
We're shifting
Yes.
mindset. We're doing early identification for the individual that empowers them to go, I know what's coming. I need to stop. Or I know what's
Yeah.
coming and I want a better outcome. Now that translates everywhere. That translates to
Yep.
family, how you speak to your own family, how you talk to your clients, your
Oh, yes.
colleagues. It has a ripple. Anyway, I love it.
Completely.
Yeah.
Completely, because I'm hearing like what is implicit in there for me are self-regulation, which you can't
mm,
have without self-awareness.
mm,
And it
mm.
sounds like, what that leader shared with you brought him back to the fundamental of his own awareness so that he could regulate
Yep.
and behave in a different way that would get the outcomes that he's looking for.
Yeah. And we always start with self. So there's multiple layers. Depends on what model you want to work towards. But let's talk about self-regulation, co-regulation, organizational regulation. They're the sort of three
Mm.
layers that I would work towards. Let's empower self first. Let's start
Yep.
to work with these as an individual. Let's start to look at it and go, right, what is it you need? When does it show up? What does it look or sound like? What can you do? What puts you in that situation or that emotional response? Then we go co-regulation. So we're talking about team dynamics. How do we communicate? How does it work together? How do we recognize the
Mm-hmm.
signs in others as well as ourselves? And then
Yes.
organizational regulation is, what are you doing about this system, process, workflow,
Mm.
pressure? And so, yeah, there's those beautiful layers, but always starting with self. Mm,
Yep. And to go back to your word, love it, empowered. It is empowering to start with self because that is
mm,
where the control lies. If you're seeing
mm.
yourself as a victim to the market or a martyr to that client and their whims, whatever it is, there's no power there for you. There's no opportunity to take agency or ownership. And without that, I mean, clearly, as a coach, I'm going to say, well, where are you going to get to if you can't own your path forward? And if I don't
Yeah,
feel empowered to do that, I'm left to just spin in circles.
yeah. That's why coaching's so powerful. For me, how quickly we move forward depends on the individual, depends on their past experience. They might have had some poor experiences before. They might not even trust me. And we know that whole thing around, in order to be coachable, you must be willing to be vulnerable. Well,
Hmm.
in the stress space, it's the most vulnerable we can be. It's identifying that I don't have all the answers. I, I've got issues or problems, or, maybe it's historical or maybe it's now, but there's something to work through. And coaching
Yeah.
is the beautiful platform to go, okay, let's build this relationship. Help me understand. Let me pick up on language and reaction and response and behaviors, and then we build it out from there.
Yes. You know what really profoundly impacted me from what you just said there, Chris, is how many times you said I and me.
Mm, mm,
Because it's I have these problems. I'm dealing with that's sort of the first step, right?
mm,
Being
mm.
in victim or martyr, any of those mentalities, it's well, they, you, them, it's
Yeah.
you've made it about yourself. And that's, as you said, the vulnerable starting point. So this is, I think, ground zero for where both of us kind of work from.
Mm.
And so, how does coaching help with the way people deal with stress? How have you found that supports?
Yeah. Did you know what I find when I'm just thinking about when I first get introduced to someone? It could be different. I've had people sit there and go, I don't even know why I'm here. What a crock of rubbish this is. Like, who the hell are you anyway? And that's my first
Yep, yep.
introduction because it's a team, it's a group that I've been put into. And
Mhm.
ironically enough, just for your audience, these are the people that get the most significant benefits from the work. Like
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's phenomenal when we see that shift.
Yeah,
So I
do
love
you see
those
them? I
people.
just okay,
Yeah,
here we go.
that's right. You're good. You're good. You. Yeah. So it's really about when it comes to stress though and coaching. What I love is there's through challenging them, through acknowledging what we're seeing and hearing. Sometimes raising that mirror up in front of people is when they go, okay.
Mm,
And that's
mhm.
when the work starts. So we can, I'll give you an example. I'm cautious about it, but I'll give it anyway and see where we go. Often we think about it's about breathing more and walking more. And sometimes I'd sit in a room and go, right, you want to improve your well-being in the next 48 hours. What can you do? And people say, oh, Chris, I need to sleep better, drink more, walk more, do more exercise. Yes,
Yep.
yes, exactly. All those things. So why don't you do it? It's not an education gap. We've got enough information. It's a value gap.
Yes. Yes.
And we talk about that a lot in our space. Um, and so that's really the piece where you're sitting in front of someone and go, right, do you value yourself? Can you see where this is going? And then do you understand that the work we're doing together, it's about me supporting you. It's not me telling you what to do, where to go, how to do it. Not me. It's really about showing you what is possible and then you
Mhm.
taking the steps towards it.
I love that. Yeah, that
Mm,
really resonates. When I first meet with a client, and especially if it's someone who has never received professional coaching before, I'll always ask, have you worked with a professional coach? And then I always say, no wrong answers. What is your understanding of professional coaching, of what our engagement is going to be about?
yeah.
My most common and typical answer is, well, you'll be my corporate therapist, right? And I would laugh at that one. I'm
Uh-oh.
like, let's talk about the similarities and differences, shall we? And that's a big part of it is that ownership piece. I say, well, I'm not going to probably tell you as much as your therapist might. Just thinking of my own experiences with my therapist, she'll talk to me and give me maybe guidance, instructions more than I would as a coach. I
Yeah.
always, it's the classic positioning of think of me as Siri, think of me in your passenger seat. You're always in the driver's seat. I can't
Mm,
turn the wheel. I can't hit the gas or the brakes. I can say, okay, routes. We have option A, option B, option C. You choose
mm,
which route. I'm not driving. You
mm,
choose to say, nope, slam on the brakes. This isn't even where I want to go. That's all
mm,
you. I can't
mm,
control that. I don't own it. So where we go, where we don't go, if we crash, that's you. I'm just here to give the guidance. And I think that's incredibly important and empowering. I think at first blush, some will actually hear that. And it's interesting to watch the bodily reactions that they have
yeah.
because they may actually have a moment of what do you mean? Like
Mm,
this is on me. I'm like, yes, this is your space. And it is on you because I see you as completely whole, resourceful, and creative.
yeah.
I'm not going to come up with better solutions to your life problems than you are. My job is to ask you the questions to maybe help you just shift your perspective to see that from a different space than you did before. That's all I'm
Mm,
here for, not
mm,
directing you.
yeah.
And I think, again, in a way, I'm connecting that to what I said earlier about surrendering and releasing to gain the control. I'm giving you the control and I'm letting you surrender from being some kind of, passive recipient of advice or guidance.
Yeah. And that's the piece they want. It's, Chris, I might hear language like, Chris, just make me or stop me from feeling the way I feel. Because they know that there is a weight, a burden, a tension, whatever it is. Lots of people, it shows up. It might be physical tension. It might be anxiousness in the brain. It could be sweating, and it could be lots of different things that show up for them. But they come to you. But again, just to emphasize this, when they've been in that state for such a long time, they've ignored the early warning signs.
Yeah.
By the time they come to me, it's like, fix it, like just stop it. And that's the interesting part. So yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing because when it shows up in the workplace, what do we actually see? That's the bit that's the bit where I just go in and do 180s and 360s and sort of hang out in the workplace. We can see
Yeah.
things like um, people don't want to show up for work, or they tend to disappear or hide, or they come out super aggressive and ruin relationships in the workplace. This is the sort of things we see if we don't start to support these people through that transition.
Yes. Completely agreed. And what you're describing to me almost sounds like the burgeoning of burnout. Is that something that you've had experience with either with your clients or maybe even personally, Chris, if I may ask?
did. So I told you that I was a mature student, let's call it that, mature student at university. I was a full-time teacher, full-time student at uni, was training with the Royal Marine Reserves. So I was a reservist and um, going on weekends on exercise. And we got inspected as a teacher. So I was a grade 1, highest level teacher. I got a first class honours degree.
Ooh, snaps. Congrats.
Yeah, with a prestigious performance award from the university for my research. I was put forward for a recognition for being a great recruit in the Royal Marines Reserve. And then I was a new dad, and I was loving life, loving it. I was just firing on all cylinders. Everything was coming together. It was fantastic. But I, in that notion, had ignored my signs. And so it didn't take long before I realized that I was struggling. And then I started to have these certain physiological and certain mental things show up. So I was not sleeping. I was getting what they call cluster headaches now. So I was getting
Ooh,
these episodes in the brain where, because I hadn't slept, because my physiology had been completely wiped out, because I was training all the time and had the mental as well as the physical load. And so my narrative doesn't fit the usual burnout model. I wasn't at work. I
ooh,
wasn't happy. I wasn't, I had this great time, loving it, loving it, loving it. And then all of a sudden I just hit a wall, an absolute wall. Couldn't go on any further. So that's my experience with burnout. And like I said to you before, I love to get into organizations, into teams, into people before that starts to happen to them, because, you know, it's had a knock-on effect. It's had a knock-on effect to me.
ooh,
I still get cluster headaches. I can't switch them off.
ooh.
And so when you look at that, it's like, well, could that have been prevented if I'd have just understood it better, looked for it better, had those measure and that conversations about it in the moment. And that's what I take into the workplace with my work is,
Yeah.
can we grab that data? Because the data is the mirror. That's how I imagine it. The data points come
Interesting.
in. We look at your cortisol. We look at your IgA, your first line defense immune. We've got apps now where you stick your face in your phone for 30 seconds. It tells me your blood pressure, heart rate variability, all these different metrics. That's a mirror to hold up, because if I ask someone, they'll tell me, yeah, everything's fantastic. Everything's good. And I'll look at that data point and go, your physiology is telling me a different story. Is there anything that we need to talk about? And then that's when they go, you're so right. Like, my boss is a nightmare. Clients are just like relentlessly demanding. I'm not sleeping. I'm drinking far too much alcohol. We've heard those stories before. So, um,
Of course.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much for being so forthcoming and sharing your story. That's really valuable, I think, for people to know that burnout can look different and it can actually be experienced when you're just in the middle of what I'll call a whole lot of peak experiences happening,
exactly.
in
Yeah,
rapid succession. So
yeah,
it's not always when things are going terribly for you or you feel awful. It can be it can be too much of anything, is what I'm hearing.
yeah, yeah. And I was jumping from peak to peak. I know that now. So bing, bing, bing. And then the lows, I would
Yeah.
probably ignore them or pretend or just keep pushing through it somehow. Or, I'd fall asleep between sessions, or I'd try and sleep in the car before I got home, or I'd have a little power nap on the couch. And that was part of my recovery. But
Hmm.
what I realized now is I was running on fumes. And that was the lesson that I learned, which is what I like to take into the client base now. Mm.
Yes, I was going to say that's incredibly valuable for people
Mm.
to have as a context to the work you do and the way you do it and the way you're able to see things from that insider perspective as well.
Yeah. So here's the positioning piece, if you like. I talk about stress in the way that we talk about performance. We can use the stress response. It's a magnificent
Mm,
piece of kit we've got. And I hear the narrative around stress is negative, stress is bad. It's like, actually, no, that's not technically true. If we
yeah,
overuse it, we
there is good
exhaust it,
stress.
yeah, it will bounce back at us. And so my conversation is always about stress and performance as opposed to stress and taking time off and stepping away and slowing down. I think it's sometimes comes across a bit patronizing to say to highly ambitious, driven, motivated, success, whatever that means to them, successful people,
Mm.
why don't we just slow down and take some time out and do less? And they're like, dude, do you even know? Like, get on board. So I talk about autonomous business rhythms, and that is understanding the highs and the lows and then working within those. The timing of peak performance. You're former athlete yourself. So I'd say to you, like, when is your competition day? Well, it's in the calendar. And then we use like
Mm.
linear periodized training programs. So you peak at certain times. And then we have
Mm.
recovery periods. Great. In the corporate world, every day's competition day. And
Oof, when you put it that way.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's part of the false narrative we get inside of corporate. That's a very opinionated piece. But I often
Mm.
find it's this false narrative that every day has to be 110%. And physiologically, that's impossible. Anyway,
That's a big message, but you're absolutely right. Again, let's just I'm thinking of you holding up that mirror of data. Yeah, let's look at that and recognize that that is actually not possible. Probably not even preferable when you think about the kinds of outcomes that you're going
mm,
to see in people and their bodies all the way down the line to
yeah,
things like leaves and sick time and what
yeah,
the results are when
yeah.
people start to spiral because they've been trying to operate at that level consistently day in and day out.
I would speak to them, and I'll give you just two examples, just two. So I would speak to business owners, and they would go, "Chris, I want a hard and fast exit. I'm looking at 3 years, and I'm just going to grow, accelerate, and get out. I'm going to sell the business and
Mhm.
jump ship." Great. So we know that we are just going to be on the edge, moving fast. Other people say to me, Chris, I want to build a sustainable business over time. I want to be able to
Mhm.
grow and just successfully hit those milestones and metrics and OKRs and all the rest of it. So great. They're two different games. So how we approach it for those, not only the individuals, but the teams and the team dynamics is different. If I know that we are going to accelerate hard, we got to get to those milestones. Great. Let's do that. Let's figure it out. Let's move fast. If I want to build and nurture and grow and have this much longer game, then I know I need to keep the talent in my teams. I know I need to reduce the costs and the overheads, absenteeism, presenteeism, all these things. And so they
Mm.
are, depends on the outcome and the goal, will depend on how we approach the performance of the individuals. I wanted to chuck that in there as a different perspective.
Yeah.
That's all.
No,
Mm,
I appreciate that. That makes a
mm,
lot of sense to me.
yeah,
And to me, on my personal bias is that that demonstrates your level of expertise as well. There's not a, one size fits all approach or methodology. It's recognizing what are the indicators that we're dealing with? What are your circumstances? What is it that you're
yeah,
striving to achieve in what period of time and adjusting your approach accordingly? That makes a lot of sense for me.
yeah. Maybe the data will convince you we need to slow down first before we
Hmm.
accelerate. Let's
Yes, the
force you
old
into
slow down to go fast.
Yeah, we're going to force you into an active recovery, and we're going to justify and maybe put some science over the top to help build that trust around,
Mhm.
is this the right thing? Am I putting myself at risk? Am I putting my company at risk by slowing down slightly? So it might just be, where are you now? Where are you going? And how are we going to get you there?
Yep, yeah.
Mm,
That makes a lot of sense. I
Mm.
want to lay that over because I'm going to come back to the start of the conversation as I promised I would. When you said you love to work with that particular demographic of, say, 12 to 14-year-old
Yeah.
athletes, how does that apply to them? And what is it about them that you love working with that group in particular?
Well, we're building foundations. They're going through huge and what I mean are physical development as well as mental development. So we're going growth spurts, and I'll tell you where that passion comes from. I, for a long time, would work with this group, and so they were probably athletically gifted. Let's call it that.
Uh,
So they were probably playing at a local level, playing for their school, probably playing a few years above their actual age group because they're awesome at
mm,
what they do. They might even be playing for their state. They might even be in the developmental pathway for their country. And every coach would be saying to them, "I want 100%, 100%." And these young people were
ugh,
pushing their bodies as they're trying to develop and grow mentally,
yeah.
physically. And so I really started to focus on that prime developmental phase between 12 and 14 years of age, because that's where we are predisposing people to injury. They get sick of their sport. They're already leaving the door by 15, 16 years old. And so I just looked at that age range and went, it's a brilliant time to be working, developing great
Uh,
habits. We can communicate with them at a different level at that age. And I just found that was my sweet spot. I just loved working with that age group. They can push, they can grow, they can become a steward of the badge they wear and the sport they represent.
ooh,
And
love that.
yeah, I really loved it. Mm.
As the mom of, almost 12 and almost 16-year-old sons who are both athletes, I'd love you in my living room.
Yeah,
Just
yeah,
sit these two down and talk to them, Chris.
exactly right. And 12 to 16, huge differences. I mean, 14 years old, I might be sitting with someone who's got a full beard and and huge, and then 14-year-old I might be tiny, hasn't gone through their phase yet, and I just different mindsets, different. I just loved it. Great.
Oh, well, that's incredible. Oh my goodness. I've had such a wonderful time in this conversation today, Chris. It's been amazing. I would love to pull us a tarot card, if I may, to see how it picks up, as we always like to do at the end of our episodes here at the Curious Coaches Lemonade Stand, on
Yes.
the kind of conversation we've been having.
Mm.
Never fails to amaze me that the cards don't lie and something comes out. I'm going to shuffle on screen here so everyone can see. And as always, I'm using the Tarot of the Divine by Yoshi Yoshitani. And of all the tarot card decks I've come across, it's my favorite because truly is diverse. It's
Can
it's
I ask?
depictions. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you asking the cards a question, or are you expecting it to just tell whatever's up in the universe at the moment? How does it work?
Great question. What I'm doing is putting the intention of give us a card that encapsulates, that connects with the conversation that you and I have been having today.
Yeah. Just for
So
any
I
of
kind
your
of use it.
audience at home, this was not
Yeah, no, great
predetermined.
question. I
You should.
appreciate it. Kind of a marker. Like, what is it that stands out from today's conversation? So the Tarot Divine has picked up the Page of Wands. The Page of Wands, so the pages are always cards of learners, always cards of students. They tend to represent young people. It's literally what we were just talking about, Chris.
Let's
Okay.
go.
Right? And so there's 4 different suits in tarot. The wand suit is about our passions. I'm just
Yes.
going to say it. Athletics would fall under the wands. Okay. Anything to do with our work, our professional aspirations and ambitions would fall under the wand suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Page of Wands has the most energy, the most excitement, is the one to just get things started, to do things just because they feel good. This makes me think of your peak experience.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
sort of the Page of Wands. And
Yes.
so I think this is a perfect wrap to the conversation because it could represent the students, the young people, young athletes you were just speaking of. It could represent the professionals who have a burning ambition, who have that sense of, having a purpose and wanting to make sure that they live out to their full potential. And more than anything, it's doing things because they feel good. The Page of Wands is not the one compared to the other three suits to think too much or to worry about, is this grounded in reality? It's the one who does things because it feels good. And
Yeah.
therefore, I think it's actually a really good link to positive stress because it's
Yeah.
about our passions and actually embodying, enacting, living them out
Yeah.
without reservation, without overthinking.
What a beautiful link. I love it. And
Yeah.
again, I wasn't expecting that, didn't know where you were going to go with it, but it just embodies everything that we just discussed and everything that we believe. So, or I believe, sorry. So thank you so much. That's great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I never fails to amaze, as I said, that the right card comes out, and I don't think I've ever had the same card come out twice. So, so it's pretty magical. Thanks, universe. Love that. And thank you for spending the time today with us. I know for sure you poured up some real refreshment for our audience. I've learned a lot. I have so many follow-up questions that I would love to ask. And, if you're up to it, I'm happy to put some of your information in so that our audience can reach out and find you if they're looking for you on LinkedIn or any other socials that you're willing to share.
Yeah.
And to you, audience, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, for stopping by and spending the time. And again, reminder, if you haven't already, to subscribe. We've got some more great guests coming up. Got a bumper crop recently, so very excited about all the wonderful people like Chris that we have that are going to come on the show for some cool interviews, pour you up something else fresh and exciting. And so until next time, look forward to connecting with you once again, for dropping by your virtual community third space here at the Curious Coaches Lemonade Stand. So till we meet again, be well, stay safe, enjoy.